That's kind of like saying Hollywood is dead. Okay, so what's the alternative? There is no alternative. Oh, Wall Street is dead. Really? You think all those big banks are going to leave Wall Street? So why would the same be for Wall Street, Hollywood? Why would it be for Silicon Valley?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and like, you know, now, there's more traders around the country, around the world, but the your top trading firms are right across the street from Wall Street so that they can
Yep.
have the fastest trade, so they can have their fiber hit
Yeah.
directly to the metal, right? So
So I'm glad you said that because this is something I've been seeing a lot online, especially as a lot of more companies are changing their headquarters and opening up buildings in other places. So, for example, I think is it Goldman Sachs or Chase, one of those two firms. They're opening up. I think it actually Schwab. I think it's Charles Schwab opened up a spot in Denton, and I know Goldman Sachs is coming down here as well. But as I was talking to my Wall Street friends and looking at their jobs, they call it all of these jobs are like back office jobs. So think customer support and software engineers, but all the client facing roles are still in New York. So sometimes it's really good to read behind the headlines like, oh, so if this type of company is moving to your city, what type of jobs are they bringing? So for example, Apple, let's say they want to open up an office in, I know they have an office in Austin, but like what type of jobs are in Austin? Like, is it like is it customer support or is it product and engineering and hardware engineering? But if that's not the case, then I think that's just they're just opening up places because they just need a tax write-off or something. But
is
for the
that
most of their client facing or front office jobs is still going to be in HQ.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Like, and like you said, right? I think there's a lot of I know for me, I moved to Texas for the tax benefits, right? There's no income tax, and so I'm effectively cheaper talent. We're effectively cheaper talent
Yep.
living in Texas, but
Mhm.
same amount of productivity as someone who's living in a higher market, right? Like New York, or obviously, Miami is kind of going crazy right now, and obviously like the Valley. So
Mhm.
yeah. So do you think AI is a bubble, or do you think it's here to stay? AI
Uh,
and machine learning.
yeah, it's definitely here to stay. I will say that just like most Silicon Valley booms and busts, you're going to have a lot of players rush into the space. They're going to duke it out and then let the best company win. And you probably have like maybe three, four big players, and there's going to be another boom. There's going to be another bust. It's like cyclical at this point. But
Right.
it just makes us. It's like we opened up Pandora's box. Like we're not going back. That's like saying like, okay, guys, the mobile phone was cool, but let's go back to wire joints. Like we're nobody's doing that. No, but you can't. Have you seen these kids in their iPhones and their iPads? And like, nah, you're not taking that away from them. So that's
Yeah.
like, how would you take away AI from people? Like, and AI isn't just Chat GPT. Like, what do you think is powering your recommendations on YouTube and Netflix and all these streaming services?
Yeah. Yeah. And so I actually went to a data science conference, and it like, because I've been taking a deeper dive, and I've been doing research on AI for at my last job. I was working on a recommendation platform for
Mhm.
something. It was like a tinkering idea that I had. Um and all these companies have been using it. That's the thing that, like, so people, my friends outside the industry is like, oh, AI, ML, I'm like, they've been doing it, right? And so when you, particularly machine learning, right? And so one of the things I learned at that conference that I went to was that machine learning is more of the back end stuff, or stuff is like for the recommendation platform or predictive analysis, right? That's machine learning. But when you get into like generative AI, that's being used more for data mining, right? So like, let's say you want to figure out what most people are searching for online, right? Effectively, the Google search is like a generative AI, right?
Yeah.
And so then they go back and like, oh, okay, well, we need to tweak our searches, our ML on the back end, quote unquote, to show these different data points or information that people are seeing. So for me, it's almost like we've been in the AI ML boom, And I actually do think it's a bubble, but I think also think the tools are useful. I'm really interested in seeing how this regulation plays out because, with ChatGPT having the different regulation issues, and I forgot who, I think it was New York Times was suing them saying that you used our content without our permission,
Yeah.
right? So,
I,
yeah,
oh, that is a great point because, you know, yeah, I was just thinking about like because ChatGPT, they use so much data, and depending on how they figure out, like, all right, you need to pay us for a license. Like, hey, if you want to use ChatGPT, you can either subscribe for different types of sources, New York Times, The Economist, Guardian, these type of publications, or you can get the free model where it's just basic, no New York Times, no Wall Street Journal, those type, no Financial Times, those type of things. So I think that's going to be the biggest, one of the biggest, regulatory hurdles that the companies gonna have to go through.
yeah, yeah. Like, that's one thing that people, and I've spoken to when I was at that conference, is like, who owns the data?
Yeah.
And that's one thing I kind of noticed about a lot of the AI companies that are kind of spawning up these startups. They don't actually own the data. They're using somebody else's data model, right? So, um, but yeah. So, how has AI changed how you build apps or thinking about building apps on iOS? Has that changed anything, or are you still kind of doing it the same way? Or does it add like a extra layer of complexity to it?
So for my role, we we were using ChatGPT as just like a tool, like, hey, if I have like some error message and I know what the solution is, but I'm like curious to see, all right, let's see how good this AI thing really is. That's where I was like, all right, put in error message, see what solution it gives me. Or if I just have some type of question, or if I want to figure out another way to build a feature, I kind of put ChatGPT to the limits and see how good it really is. But
Mm,
it's not like taking over my job or anything. It's literally just a tool like I use like Google or something. Or like whatever I have a question from, or if I had a question I'd ask Stack Overflow, I don't go to the website anymore. I just ask ChatGPT.
right. Because it probably has information from Stack
Yeah,
Overflow.
exactly.
um, you know how they talked about engineers, right? How engineers have basically been replacing the common worker, right?
Hmm.
Do you think that AI and machine learning are going to fully replace engineers? Because there's, I think it's called meta programming, where it's code that fixes itself or something like that. You know more about it than me, but do
Uh,
you see AI replacing engineers?
no, because I feel like somebody's gonna try it and they're gonna lose their clients' money, a lot of money, to the point where like, see, this is why you need to at least have some type of human element. You can't just let a robot run wild, because who's checking its work?
Yeah, yeah. And the interesting thing about AI and what I learned about, like, and I like this analogy, right? We haven't figured out how our brain makes decisions fully, right? We think we know, but we don't know. And a lot of these AI models, we actually don't know how they're making decisions.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of crazy, right?
Hmm.
So, and I've thought about this too. Will AI replace product managers? And I have a real big resounding no, because with these AI models, right, you have the large language models, and you have the small language models, right? So like a large language model is like looking at all the data on the internet, and then a small language model is just looking at healthcare
Hmm.
information, right? As a PM, there's a lot of different areas that we have to know, and then we sit in the middle.
Yeah.
So if we can't even figure out how the brain works and makes decisions, how do you think we can replace
Yeah.
a PM with a brain that has to tie in all these different loose ends and make recommendations, right?